All right, welcome. Today we're diving into a question that is, well, a real mind-bender. It's a paradox that has been at the very heart of theological discussions for, centuries. And it really challenges how we think about time, identity, and divinity. So let's just jump right in.
So here's the puzzle, right? The Bible tells us Jesus was a man, born at a very specific time in history, in a little town called Bethlehem. Simple enough. But it also talks about him existing long, long before that, even before creation itself. So how can both of those things be true? I mean, how can a person have a beginning, but also be eternal? That is the exact question we're going to unpack today, using our source material as a guide.
So how do we even begin to solve this? Well, the source material we're looking at proposes a solution that really comes down to one critical distinction. It's a simple idea, but it's incredibly powerful, and it's pretty much the foundation for this entire explanation.
Okay, now check this out, because this is the heart of the argument. The source splits it into two columns. On one side, you have the Spirit of Jesus. This, it says, existed from all eternity, because it is God himself, the eternal creator, no beginning. But on the other side, you have the humanity of Jesus, referred to as the Son. And according to this view, the Son, as a distinct human person, did not exist before the incarnation. Instead, he existed as a preordained plan in the mind of God.
To help us get our heads around this, think about an architect designing a house. That blueprint, that perfect idea for the house, it exists completely in the architect's mind, way before a single brick is ever laid. The plan is whole, it's complete, it's fully realized in thought. But the physical house, that only comes into being later. The source uses this exact analogy for the sonship. It was a perfect, divine plan from eternity that was only made physical at a specific point in time. So you might be wondering, where does this idea actually come from? Is it just a cool analogy? Well, let's look at the scriptural foundation for this, because it builds directly from a very, very famous passage in the Gospel of John. First, though, we need to get a key term straight, the word, or in the original Greek, logos. Now, in this context, it doesn't just mean a spoken sound. It's a much bigger concept. Think of it as the mind, the plan, or the ultimate expression of God. Keep that definition in your head as we look at the verse where this whole idea just comes to life.
And here it is. This passage from the Gospel of John really captures the entire argument. It says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was made flesh." The source argues that this isn't just poetry, it's laying out a very distinct sequence. So let's break down what each of those phrases really means.
And this just illustrates the whole concept brilliantly. First, the Word was God. That points to Jesus' eternal existence as God himself, his divine nature. Second, the Word was with God. This refers to the plan, that blueprint for the Son existing within the mind of God from the very beginning. And finally, the Word became flesh. That's the moment of incarnation, the moment that eternal plan was finally expressed and made real in a human person.
Okay, so now that we have this framework, this idea of spirit versus plan, let's see how the source applies it to some other key verses in the Bible that talk about Jesus' preexistence. This is where the rubber really meets the road, you know? Let's put this distinction to the test.
Let's start with this one. It's a powerful and frankly shocking statement from Jesus. When he says, "Before Abraham was, I am," he's claiming to exist before Abraham, who lived 2,000 years earlier. It is a direct, undeniable claim to preexistence. So given this whole spirit versus plan distinction we've just learned, how does this fit? I mean, is this the pre-human Son talking, or is it something else entirely? And here's the crucial point. The source argues that the I am here isn't the pre-incarnate Son speaking. Instead, it's a statement about the pre-existence of his divine nature as the eternal God of the Old Testament, the very same God who revealed himself to Moses as I am. So it's a claim to being eternal God, not a claim to being a pre-human person. See the difference? Now let's look at another really profound verse. Here, Jesus is praying, and he talks about a glory that he shared with the Father before the world was. This one seems to clearly imply some kind of shared, glorious existence long before his human birth.
And this brings us right back to that paradox, doesn't it? If the human Son didn't exist before Bethlehem, What is this glory that he's asking to have restored? It's a fantastic question, and it really puts the theory on the spot.
The answer, according to our source, circles right back to that blueprint analogy. The glory Jesus is referring to is the glory that the sonship held within the eternal plan of God. So the humanity of Jesus didn't pre-exist, but the plan for it did. And in the mind of God, that plan was already glorious from before the foundation of the world.
Okay, so let's pull all of these different threads together now and just summarize the complete picture that our source material is presenting here. Let's just recap the core takeaways. It's really 4 key points. 1. The Spirit of Jesus is eternal. It is God. 2. The humanity of Jesus, the Son, began at the incarnation in Bethlehem. 3. Before that moment, the Son existed only as a perfect plan, the Word, inside God's mind. And 4. The incarnation is that pivotal event where that eternal divine plan became a tangible human reality.
So in the end, this whole explanation is trying to resolve the paradox by presenting a single unified God who chooses to express his eternal plan in human flesh rather than a separate being existing alongside him for all eternity. So the final question I'll leave you with is this: how might viewing the story through this lens, the lens of an eternal blueprint becoming a physical reality, how might that change the way you read the narrative of Jesus' life and identity? It's definitely something to think about.